Scientists have proof that there is life after death. Well, sort of. What they have discovered is that consciousness may continue even after death. Now, this is a subject that's been treated with a lot of skepticism over the years, but in a most extensive study of its kind, scientists at the University of Southampton in the UK have spent nearly 4 years examining more than 2,000 people who suffered cardiac arrests at 15 hospitals in the UK, the US, and Austria, and have found that 40% of people who recovered described having some form of awareness at the time when they were declared clinically dead. Now, as I said, Mark, the perception is, or the current wisdom is that death occurs about 20 to 30 seconds after your heart stops beating. And the research indicates that it goes on for significantly longer than that. And this is what the sort of top line takeaway from the report is. Quotes, "The evidence thus far suggests that in the first few minutes after death, consciousness is not annihilated. Whether it fades away afterwards, we do not know. But right after death, consciousness is not lost." So this is coming, they got this, as I said, you have to kind of take a little bit of a leap of faith here, but it was conducted by prominent scientists in a sensible, studied fashion. It wasn't just, it is anecdotal, but it was done in a conscientious fashion.
Whenever there's a study like this, doubters will jump on and say, well, that's just because you're lack of oxygen and you're hallucinating and all this, and people will kind of poo-poo it, but this is putting together a large amount of experiential evidence from people who describe the events as well.
And they describe the events in great detail. So one of the, and we're just going to quote this one particular 57-year-old man who suffered a cardiac arrest and was able to, and he was dead. He was clinically dead. He was on the slab and they were trying to revive him with a defibrillator. And I'll read you his account, what he says. He says the following, it's long, but if you listen to it, it'll make sense. "We know the brain can't function when the heart has stopped beating, but in this case, conscious awareness appears to have continued for up to 3 minutes. The man described everything that had happened in the room, but importantly, he heard 2 bleeps from a machine that makes a noise at 3-minute intervals, so he could time how long the experience lasted for. He seemed very credible, and everything that he said had happened to him had actually happened." So he was able to describe in detail what people were trying to do. Now, again, people have described this out-of-body experience. There were certain people who described that, the sort of the Hollywood, bright light at the end of a tunnel, all those kind of things. There were certain people who did that, but for the most part, 40% of these people made specific comments about what was specifically happening in the room for that period of time.
People will tend to back up their own religious and philosophical beliefs. If you don't believe in life after death, or if you're an agnostic or an atheist, then you'll just think, oh, that's just ridiculous. But people who have some kind of faith, or even Eastern philosophies, which are thousands of years old, this is all matter of fact to them. There's in Eastern philosophy where you have an astral body, and that is part of you who it leaves your physical body, but it's still you. And so it's possible for, this is not like some crazy idea to a lot of people in the world. I happen to think that it's entirely possible, sure.
Right, but and the difference here is it's not that what they're trying to do is bring it from a question of faith and belief more into sort of empirical evidence. It's always, as I said, it's always going to be hard to really get that empirical evidence because of the nature of the study.
Sure, absolutely.
And the issue. But it seems to be, as I said, this was over 2,000 people that they analysed and examined, and it was done over a 4-year period. So it has weight, and what the results were, and the results from a third-party board of scientists and researchers who read the report certainly said that there was merit in the report and it bore further investigation and examination.
Well, what do you think? Yeah, I want to know what.
Well, I think I'll surprise you. I believe that. I don't believe that there's a moment at which, it's kind of like, it sounds a bit silly, but the way I would view it is it's almost like you're kind of powering down. Mm-hmm. And I think there probably is that moment at which it doesn't just, your heart stops beating, but then
But do you think that you carry on
the plug.
After the fact? Say you don't come back, okay? Say there's a half hour and you're out and you're floating around and you're seeing everything.
Right.
And instead of coming back to say, oh my God, I had this experience, you don't come back. You're gone. You die. Do you think that your conscious carries on?
That's a hard question to answer. It's on any given day it will change. And I was just about to answer you basically with a no on that one, because I think, I think there's that response, which is, I was dead for 1 billion years before I was ever born, and I think it'll be the kind of the same. There's no reason to think that I wouldn't be just as dead after I've lived, if you get what I'm trying to say there. It's just like I was dead before I was ever conceived and came into being. So there is that nothingness.
You say that as if it were a fact. But how do
you're questioning that? Well,
yes.
Do you have any? Are you one of these past life type of people?
It's possible. Yeah, it's possible. Sure. So you're saying, well,
who were you in a past life? Were you a carer? Were you a nurse or a doctor in a MASH unit? I see you as being on a battlefield somewhere, caring for people.
Oh, okay, fine.
Mopping a brow.
I don't know. I'm just saying that if I don't subscribe to the idea that you were dead forever before you were born. So
okay. So where do you land on this?
I land on I think science is getting to the point of being able to prove something that I hope to be true.
That sounds like a politician's answer. I mean,
I absolutely. I plan on having a good old time after I've gone from this body. I plan on having a blast.
Okay. But it's like Houdini. Houdini said if there was an afterlife, and he was the greatest escapologist of them all, he said, I'll let you know. I'll let you know. I'll be able to communicate with you. And I don't think he ever did.
Well, maybe he didn't find he was relying too much on his body, maybe he just didn't have the look. There's plenty of other people who have been able to do what he says, but we'll let our viewers debate that.
Right. So let us know your thoughts. Where do you stand on this? Life after death? Yes, no. Seance? Do you want us to have maybe we should do one of those. You want to do one of those?
Now,
Ouija boards?
You're just mocking me.
I'm not mocking. No, I'm not mocking you. I believe. I told you it was on any given day. Just today, I'm more on the skeptical side.
Okay.
Anyway, let us know your thoughts, and as always, subscribe to the Lib TV.